Yeah, and some advertisers will try to do, overcompensate with celebrities or testimonials that are well known. And that can sometimes go the wrong way at the expense of the brand. And I think the advice I would say is not just about putting the brand logo or product there, it's about what is the role of the brand in that story.
Marcas y Mercados llega gracias a Grupo OMG.
Thanks, Shaun, for being here with us. It is said that people do not like to see advertising. And according to our studies, that's not true. People like to see advertising, but the ones that entertain them are fun, empathetic, and connect. My question here is, how can we help our clients have more powerful, sparkling, more empathetic advertising without the brand getting lost along the way?
It's a great question, and I think the first thing is just to recognize, and we'll talk about the context of the situation that the consumer or people are in, right? And we're interrupting. And the most time, if we think about digital, we're interrupting their viewing experience. So, or even if they're looking at TV, which is more lean in, they still can, move away from the sofa, look at their phone. So what you want to do is to try and grab their attention. And to grab their attention, you need to do something very original, very entertaining, something that is a hook, a story in a way, right? It's more than emotion. I think you need to do that. So what we're saying to our clients is first, we need to tell them about what are the challenges, right? Some of the challenges I mentioned at the presentation yesterday, which is around, this culture of conformity. So doing the same things over and over again can be a challenge. So what we say to our clients is, you should be trying to be bolder, be braver, right? Give the agencies more space to do more stories. Now, you had a very important point that you mentioned, Flavia, which is like, how do we not lose the brand at the center of the story? So our advice there would be to say, when you start your creative development journey early on in the process, like at client brief or big idea stage, that's where you need to make sure that you take consumers on the journey with you. You involve them as part of your springboard for testing new ideas and checking them. And that process can allow you to do two things: allow more space for the agency to create more stories and produce more stories, but also ensure that the brand is at the center of the story. So how can we make sure that the brand, at the end of the day, is the hero of the story and remains true to that story arc? Because that's always the central challenge.
That's the challenge.
Think about the distinctive assets you can use in your stories, because you can use colors, you can use sound, you can use this creative style. There are many ways to keep people, and I think that's the advice I would give there.
Yes, indeed. We have always said that creative is king.
Yeah.
But we also say that content is king. However, we realized that context is King Kong, as you said yesterday, because context becomes increasingly important. Can you tell us why context is coming and is being more important each day?
Yeah, there are two parts to the story. Context from a kind of a macro and a micro perspective. So realizing what's going on in the world, from all the crises that are happening, inflation, wars, challenges, etc. And then the micro, what the impact is on the consumer. So that's an opportunity for brands and advertisers to be aware of that when they create their creative. So that's the one element. And I think brands that understand context better and leverage context in a way that's sensible can lift their game. The other part, the second part of context, is the media channel, right? And so if we think of many people will say, we create a lot of digital assets. The word digital is kind of irrelevant, because what is digital? The definition of digital can be a lot of different things. So, traditionally what advertisers would do would produce film, cut it down to 30 or 15, use that for TV, cut it down again, use it for YouTube or Instagram. that's not the best way to do it, because the way people consume content in Instagram is very different to YouTube, is very different to TikTok and TV. So you need to almost make the creative based on the same big idea, story, for that specific platform. If we think about just Instagram and what people are doing there, they're going there to maybe see their influencers or follow certain people, but also to engage with their families and friends. And so what we see from our research is that those ads that are really successful in Instagram actually have a high level of empathy. So it's not just by being entertaining or highly emotional is not going to make you effective in Instagram. YouTube is different, because YouTube people go for short-term. When we talk about YouTube in general, not shorts, they go there to watch short-term video or long-term video. There you need to be a little bit more entertaining, but you need to be very fast, especially and skippable.
Yes.
And then you need your brand to be centered. So context is very, very important. And I would say as we see global media, the spend in global media and advertising rising in social media, it's said to be by 2028 as much as 70% of global. Yeah, so it's a large, but the understanding of what really makes social media advertising effective is quite low.
Yes.
And there's a big gap there. So I think that's why context is definitely King Kong and an opportunity for us to do better.
It all depends on what we need the platform to do for us, for our brands.
Right.
So we have to understand, because they have different languages as well.
Yeah.
No?
Yeah.
What advice would you give to a brand looking for effectiveness in its campaigns? What aspects should I take into account? Yes or yes?
So if a company or marketer is trying to be effective, I would say one of the most important things is to have a very strong foundation, a big idea or core creative idea. It's kind of like, I use the analogy of building a house. If you build a house, the most important part of the house is the foundation. You're going to build the walls on top of it, the roof on top of that, right?
Yes.
Campaign works the same way. If you want to have longer term success, be continual success, invest in your brand, that big idea, that core creative idea is going to be the one that's the single most important part. So I would say to any marketer or advertiser, invest more money in research in the early stages of your creative development process. Don't wait until the ads are out there in market, because you're burning your money.
Yes.
If you and it's a fraction of the cost of the media and production, you invest earlier in getting those big ideas right, it'll pay off in the long term. What do you need to do? That's the question. You need to make sure you've got a human insight or human truth that that the brand can basically credibly link to or connect to. And that's where the empathy part comes in. And you need, big ideas or successful campaigns start and end with empathy. And the big ideas that have these strong empathetic elements to them really do well. I think of all the big brands that have been successful out there, they have a core part of element of empathy. So say that's very important. Secondly, I would say use advertising research not as a kill bill or like something that just is a gate, but rather as something that can nurture your creative development process. Certainly provoke your thinking, because that you want an objective point of view from the advertising research, but you want to be able to use it to learn, and learning happens over time. It's not instant. So you need to have patience, and if you're in it for the longer term and you want to build your brand, use the research to help you along the way. You may not have in the first pieces of research the success you would have hoped for, but the idea is that over the longer term you will grow, and you will have this kind of box of great insights and learnings that can help you over time. And we've seen from clients that work with us, the ones that do that really well over time are successful. And so I'd say those are the things that are very, very important. And the last point I would say is just, you said it at the beginning with your first question, is like looking for ads that are original. They don't need to be completely new, but original for the category, maybe that's the point, that do entertain. getting into people's minds in the advertising world is the price of entry, the cost of entry. And so in order to do that, you do need to work really hard and have things that are going to lead up to those memory structures, and that gives your brand, the first choice for a person who's going to choose a product, a brand, or a service. So I would say those are the things that are important.
Yes, and we know from all the research that we do in creative excellence, all the research that we do at the end-to-end, we can see that the clients, the brands that start working in an early stage, they are more effective than the ones that don't. So we actually recommend all our clients to pre-test and start earlier since the big idea, because as context is so important, we have to have this big idea in order to cascade in the different platforms what we need to say about our brand.
Yeah, exactly.
So thank you very much, Shaun, for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
I wish you can be here sooner.
Me too.
And thank you very much.
Thanks a lot. It's been really lovely being in Peru with all of the warm welcome here and seeing you, of course, Flavia. What a pleasure.
See you next year in Cannes,
Thank
hopefully.
you so much. Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much. Thanks a lot.
Bueno, amigos, eso ha sido todo por el programa de hoy. Los espero en la próxima edición de Marcas y Mercados. Gracias.
Marcas y Mercados llega gracias a Grupo OMG.